Hello, everybody, and welcome to Smart with Your Money. I am Chase Peckham. I am the Director of Community Outreach and Education at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, which is the education arm of Debt Wave Credit Counseling. Today is a big topic. It's something that has been in the news in recent weeks, and we are very, very happy to have Felipe, as we always do, but in this case, this is his real expertise. He can talk about this stuff, and we're going to talk about student loans. And welcome Felipe Arevalo, the coordinator of community outreach and education at the SDFLC. And Felipe, what are we going to talk about today that is really important for those with student loans to understand?
It's the entire world of student loans. It's so dynamic these days. You have payments due, or wait, maybe not payments due. And then you have who's my servicer and what are they doing? And it's just so many questions, and it all just kind of seemed to come to a point, and it just kind of all happening at the same time. So,
yeah, there seems to be so much information out there, and yet whether the information's correct or not, I mean, it's ever changing, right? I mean, it is. It seems to be changing daily.
Oh yeah. Well, we put out a podcast on this topic. And our podcasts go up Friday mornings, and by Friday afternoon, it was outdated. And it was just
most of the 99% of the information was right.
Yeah. Information. Good thing we didn't concentrate on the one part that was outdated. But It was just kind of funny because when we recorded it, that was the thing. We don't know. And then all of a sudden it goes live and it's student loans are trending. I'm like, wow, everyone loved our episode. There's millions of people tweeting about it, but they were tweeting about something else. Just student loan related. So student loan update. First of all, so do I have a payment now? The special 0% no payment due was set to expire, but on August 6th, and I took this is a screenshot straight from the federal student aid website. I don't do a lot of text and screenshots on these, but as of yesterday, the last time I checked to see if it was still up to date, this is the most up to date. August 6th, the U.S. Department of Education announced a final extension. I don't know why they called it a final extension.
Yeah, we'll see if it's final.
We hope it is.
We'll see.
Everything gets back to normal by January, but of the student loan repayment until the end of January 2022. What does that mean? Well, that means for the eligible loans, those of you who have already been taking advantage of this, a suspension of loan payments. You don't have student loan payment due. 0% interest rate, which is phenomenal. And it stops collections on default loans. So even if you were behind and you're not taking advantage of some of these things, it does benefit you because they stop collections on those defaulted loans. Pay attention, as always, with scams. This happens automatically, that you don't have that payment and then your interest goes down to 0%. There's no need for you to call and answer calls from robots telling you how to do it. It should
don't click on anything.
Don't click on anything. If you, for some reason, it's not, I don't think I've heard of any cases, contact your servicer the way you normally would and talk to them about it. They should be able to fix it. And it should be an automatic process. Can you still make payments? Yes, absolutely. You can still make. They'll take payments. And if you're able to, if nothing has changed and you're financially able to make those payments, and your goal is to pay off your student loans as soon as possible, you can absolutely send payments. And what's the best thing about a 0% loan? Every single dollar you make as a payment goes straight to the principal. There's no finance charges. You're just knocking that balance down by every dollar that you send. So you are making much more progress, with that 0%.
From a financial standpoint, if you have the means and it's not going to affect you, don't think, well, I'm just going to put that money, that you're going to have to pay it back someday. So if you have the ability, pay it now, because as Felipe mentioned, I mean, you're paying it all. So every single dollar that goes to that payment is going towards the principal of paying it down, which isn't the way it is most of the time.
Yeah. So if your goal is to pay it down, now that might not be everyone's goal. If you're, on certain plans, you might not be looking to pay down the balance as much as possible because you hope to get some of it forgiven or whatever it is. But if your goal is to get out of debt, get out of that student loan debt and pay it off faster. This can accelerate that. What about public service loan forgiveness? And this is what I mean by not everyone's trying to pay down their loan as fast as
Say that
possible.
again 5 times fast.
Exactly. PSLF, for short. So they also, loans on this are included. You don't have a monthly payment. And the cool thing is, and I had to look this up, but the cool thing is, direct loans that are not on default, and if you still continue to work full time for the qualifying employer, much like the guidelines are for the regular public service loan forgiveness, you are still earning credit towards that forgiveness. So
That's
the last
crazy.
year and a half, no payment, no interest, still
And you're getting credit.
getting credit for it, which is great. It's the easiest payment to make is that $0 payment. You can't get a better deal than that. Two things you do have to make sure, though, is you have to make sure, as always, continue to fill out your paperwork, whether it's the public student loan forgiveness and the temporary, there's a new one, a temporary expanded public student loan forgiveness certification application. And that's the one you have your employer fill out to verify that you're still employed full time, so that those payments do count towards that, towards that 120 on-time payments to get forgiven. The good thing is, you haven't been making any payments, your balance is not going up, and the amount that you're going to be forgiven in the end might be higher because you haven't been making any payments. But if it's all going to be forgiven, make sure it's still counting, though. Make sure you turned in the right paperwork, and just get in the habit of that. Public student loan forgiveness is a great program. There's a lot of intricacies to it, so
it's not for everybody. Just remember that.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, and you do want to make sure that you fill out the paperwork and you stay on top of it, because there's a high percentage of people, especially at the beginning, who were applying, who are getting declined because of different parts that they just may not have filled out things correctly, or they were unaware of certain things. So after COVID relief, do you have to reapply for the IDR? And those of you who are on one know that means income-driven repayment plan. The answer is yes. Once you get off that $0 payment, 0% APR, you will need to reapply for your income-driven repayment plan that best suits you. If you missed out on work due to COVID, if your hours were cut, if you were laid off, that can affect that affected your income. So that can affect your income-driven repayment plan, may even end up with a lower payment amount when time comes to reapply. So work with your servicer, get on that whenever in January, and start that process as soon as you can. Once you get into that January time frame, and get on that income-driven repayment plan. There's a lot of people who are going to be jumping on an income-driven repayment plan when they get off this COVID relief. There may be a delay. I would be really surprised if there wasn't a delay. Normally you're spread out throughout the year, and you might be January and your friend might be in June, and so on and so forth. Everyone's going to be at the end of January. So make sure that you stay on top of it, so that those delays don't affect you and you don't miss out on a few months of, that time that work towards your public service forgiveness. Fed loan servicing. If you're on the public student loan service forgiveness, you know who Fed Loans is, because that's your servicer. That's everyone's servicer who's trying to apply for the PSFL. And it's something where they're getting out. They're not going to deal with the student loan, federal student loan. They're not going to be a servicer anymore. They're leaving that portion of the industry, and your student loans will be serviced by someone else. That someone else is still TBD, but stay on top of it. So Fed Loans is leaving. That doesn't mean your loans change. That doesn't mean you miss out on your possible forgiveness. It doesn't mean that your interest rates or anything like that. Your loan terms, your payment plans, all of that, they're not set by Fed Loans. They're set by the Federal Student Aid and the Department of Education. So don't worry about that. You're not going to be left out in the rain by Fed Loans. Plus, they're going to be working with the Department of Education to make sure that it is a smooth transition is what we keep hearing.
Hey, Phil, so let me ask you a question here
yeah.
real quick for those that might be asking this question too, but servicers change a lot, right? This isn't uncommon, but why is this newsworthy with Fed loan servicing?
Yeah, so servicers change just like, your mortgage servicer might change if you have a mortgage. I know when I was paying back my student loans, mine changed. I actually ended up going to Fed loans, and it's just who's servicing your loan. It's basically like a new customer service department. It's just who's collecting and monitoring and sending you statements and all that on behalf of the Department of Education. It happens. It's happened to a lot of people already. Maybe you switched to Fed loans when you first applied for the PSFL. So it shouldn't be a big deal. It happens all the time anyways. And this one's a big deal because it's going to be everyone who is on the public forgiveness plan.
Yeah.
Everyone's at Fed loans. So it's just such a large amount of people who, if you're just making payments, then
And in these programs.
As long as your accounts stay current, you're not worried about it. But if you're trying to get your loans forgiven and you're 5, 6, 7 years into that, it's really important that things don't get lost in the transition because you got a lot on the line. Whereas someone who's just maybe making payments, trying to, just normal payments on time, trying to pay it off, they might not have as much to worry about. They just need to make sure it doesn't fall behind in the transition, which is relatively easy to do. It's just the number of people who have the more complicated loan situation having to move to a new servicer. That's where the real issue potentially could be. Hopefully not. So how can you prepare? You always want to be prepared, as Harry Potter would tell you here. You want to make sure that you go to Fed loans, download as many documents as you can, payment histories, if you've done employment verification forms, if you have proof of being accepted onto one of the many income-driven repayment plans. Collect up as much documents as you can. And then make sure your contact information is accurate. You move, you got to remember to change your address with everyone. It's a pain in the neck. Sometimes you think you changed it. Like I thought I changed my auto insurance, and then I got an email saying the post office told us you moved and you haven't. Shame on you. And I realized there's another button to hit at the app. I thought I changed it, but I didn't hit the last button. So I really didn't do anything. So make sure that you go on your Fed loans, update your contact information, your email, your mailing address, phone numbers, go onto the Department of Education website, the Federal Student Aid website, update your info there because your servicer will need to contact you at some point. And then, just, make sure that you have it all.
I heard Hogwarts is a really expensive school too. So I'm sure
you would need a lot of
that there was a lot of money going in there. Hey, we've got a question out there, and it's if you recently took out student loans, do these payment extensions apply to you?
So if you recently took out student loans, and you're still in school, you're still in school status. So as you take out student loans while you're at least half-time student, you already don't have a payment. Your payment's already zero. Yeah, you only start making payments after you drop below half-time or after you finish school. And then payments will start 6 months after that. If you're, just recently took them out and now you're past your 6 months as you finish school or whatever it is, that 0% extension, that applies to everyone. It's kind of like a big blanket. So you should be okay. You shouldn't have any payments. Obviously, you always want to confirm with your student loan servicer. And just a reminder, we are talking about federal student loans.
Right.
Depending on what school you went to, you may have private student loans if you had to, especially if you went to private schools or out of state or things like that where the federal student loans didn't cover it. Those might not be covered under this extension. Those are often made by private banks and lenders, and they don't have to give you the
right under their own terms,
no payment. You can talk to them. They may have hardship programs. They may have programs available to you, but they're not working with the same. These are just your federal student loans.
And if you recently took out your payments and you're in school, right? I mean, you're not going to typically be paying until after you graduate. It's 6 months after you graduate anyway. Right. So, I mean, those are all on deferral anyway. You're taking them out and you're using them. So nothing has changed in that one. What are the benefits of paying money towards student loans now versus waiting for payments resuming in January? You covered this a little bit. But I would
big
imagine
benefit
you're not paying interest, you're going all towards principal, right?
Yeah, it's going towards the principal. And if you're able to, obviously, if you're going to cause yourself hardship by making payments when you don't have to, you don't want to do that. Or if you're carrying a balance on, much higher interest rate debt, credit cards, that kind of thing, you may want to temporarily allocate that towards those debts, those 20% APR on a credit card, or even a 9.9% on a credit card is probably higher than your 6.54% on your student loans. So you may want to, for the time being, divert those funds and start paying off those higher interest rate debts if you can. The benefit to making payments towards your student loans, especially if you don't have any of that other debt, is you make the most progress. I talked to someone who told me that during this time period, they finished paying off their car, and then them and their spouse, what they did is they just rolled the car payment into the student loans, and now they're making a lot more progress. So they're advancing and paying off. That's their last debt. So the 0% means they're really starting to make progress. And
good for them.
That's always a good
their own
thing
version of the snowball effect.
Yeah, except
That's
they're on
great.
their final debt snowball. So now it's a big snowball, but
it's a big
also,
snowball. So it's a giant avalanche.
Right.
Good for them.
So that's a big benefit. 0%. None of it's going to interest. Everything's going towards the principal. Someone said, how do you find out if you have federal student loans? There's a couple of different ways. There's always your credit report, annualcreditreport.com, free once a week right now for each of the 3 bureaus through COVID. And second, you can log on to the federal student aid website, studentloans.gov, or I don't remember the URL exactly, but the federal student loan or student aid website, and log in, use your login to get in there, and then it'll give you a breakdown of all your different loans. So you can see if you have federal student loans, but there's always, if you have federal student loans, probably showing up on your credit report. So that's always one way to do it as well. And that's a good way to also see who has your student loans. If you haven't already, you should get correspondence once you get out or once you have payments due, but if you moved and you didn't update it, they may be trying to reach you. And you may have student loans, it's definitely worth pulling your credit report or going on the federal student aid website, or go back and contact your school.
Yeah, it's student aid, studentaid.gov.
Yeah, or go back and contact your school's financial aid office. A lot of times they're able to help you, especially if you may also have some private loans in the mix, some loans that you took out sometimes through the schools. Go back to the financial aid office or give them a call and see if they can't help you out with that as well. Those are great questions. So be prepared and make sure they have your updated information. Also, be on the lookout for news on who the new servicer is going to be. You'll probably hear about it on the news. They'll probably even be trending on Twitter. And it's something where
it will definitely make news.
Yeah. And if not, follow us on Twitter and I'll definitely tweet about it. And it's something where you'll know who the new servicer is. You may also receive correspondence from Fed Loans, from the Department of Education, and then you'll receive information from your new servicer. But be on the lookout, make sure that you're aware, make sure that you know that there are scams.
And do not click on anything. Don't say click, if they click on this to go, do not do that. You're getting phished. Don't.
Yeah. Make sure you verify who's sending you the emails and who's sending you everything else.
Yeah.
If you want to keep learning about it, we did have recently a Talk Wealth to Me podcast episode.
Great episode.
On this very topic.
Very in depth.
Yes, it's a lot longer, but a lot more information, student loan news and its potential impact. You can catch it at that little QR code, or you can listen to it wherever you listen to all your other favorite podcasts that you have. Talk Wealth to Me is a podcast. We have a bunch of different episodes on a bunch of different topics. Feel free to check them out. Let us know if we're missing one or a topic you'd like to hear us cover that we haven't already covered. And then join us again in 2 weeks for Are You on Track to Avoid the Holiday Debt? Chase, next Swim Live will be September, but we're talking holidays.
I know. Well, it's always smart to look ahead, right? It's always smart to start looking toward, if stores are going to do it, if Costco's already putting it, it's 100 degrees outside, but they've got jackets and ski pants and stuff like that. They're selling that stuff already. So why not talk about the holidays this early. It's smart to get started early.
Yeah, the holiday decorations are just around the corner. I can almost, they're probably have them in the back of Costco.
Well, I mean,
already.
school is starting for most people today and has started in the last week. So, congratulations to all those parents out there who have it feels
kids
like
are
summer is starting to you. Everybody's celebrating because the kids are out of the house because they're
Just dropped
actually
off-
going to school. So that's great.
Yeah, just dropped off my third grader. I don't think I've ever seen that many smiles from parents leaving
Oh,
back
yeah.
towards their cars after dropping off their little ones. So
Both mine start tomorrow. So I've got one more day with them telling them up to pick up dog poop in the yard. So then it falls to me.
All right. Any other questions? If from Facebook, anyone on here? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And
Yeah.
we'll see you in 2 weeks for another fun one. Holiday.
Absolutely.
Mm.